Hi, I'm Ian.
And I'm Jason.
And this is Ghosts and Bears, the only podcast where we bring you the actual ghosts
with the actual stories
from actual bears. Coming up on this episode, we are looking at the wonders of hotels and the guests who never check out. Coming up on Ghosts and Bears.
Hello.
Hello.
Wow, welcome back.
It has been quite the time since we talked to you last.
Yes, I had COVID. It wasn't good. I'm still recovering.
But you're feeling a lot better now.
Yeah. I have my energy ebbs and flows. It's not the best, but...
Well, and the other side of it is you have school coming up this coming weekend.
Yeah.
And so you have a final exam or midterm?
Yeah, exam.
Yeah, an exam.
That's fine.
And then your project. So you've been working on that all weekend.
Yeah, I thought COVID was a done deal. Apparently it's on a rampage again.
It's still hanging around. What else happened this weekend?
What did happen this weekend? Bunch of things. We had Ian's inaugural ghost walk, so that was cool.
We launched BG Ghostly Walks.
Yeah, that was very cool. Congratulations on that. It was
thank you. Well, thank you for your help.
Basically a sellout. I went on for a brief bit on them
on both nights, actually.
Photos, yeah.
Yeah, you got some pictures.
I didn't go the whole night. I didn't have the energy, so I showed up for a little bit, took some photos, and then left.
Yeah, like we sold out on the Friday night. I'm only doing them Friday, Saturday at the end of the month for right now.
Yeah.
To see how it goes. And then every weekend in October, the Friday and the Saturday night, 2 times a night. And it went great. Like people came out, we sold out.
Yeah, you did well.
People were excited. If you go to the PG Ghostly Walks Facebook page, there's like 12 reviews. I think so, now at this point. And so I have a 5 out of 5 rating. Yay.
Don't have much of a brain here. There's a little bit of fog.
You'll be okay. You'll get through it, I promise. And all the stories are written down, so you don't have to memorize anything.
That's true.
And even the CBC reporter came and interviewed me for Thursday.
I hear that was good.
Apparently it's going to be on the air next week, so for CBC North.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So I had a huge amount of stress around that, and now it's over, and now I'm happy, and it's launched, and everything went. You know what surprised me the most?
What was that?
I thought I was going to have way more problems, like either with the booking system or problems on the street with the colorful street friends, or I didn't know, but we didn't have any problems.
No, I think people loved it.
The only thing I did, overdressed. It was way too warm.
I don't know.
It was too hot.
Oh, yeah. I remember it being muggy.
Really muggy. So this episode, you and I are talking about...
haunted hotels.
Yes. So this is our ongoing summer theme thing.
Yes.
And we thought we'd kick it off with hotels because most of us at some point or another during the summer, if we go away, unless we're super dedicated campers, if we are going away on vacation and we're not camping, we're probably going to end up in a hotel at some point.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Even for one night, right? Even if you're going to visit family.
Well, actually, we're going to Grand Prairie in 2 weekends. That's to study for my last bit of this semester. So,
and we'll be staying in a hotel.
Yeah, I think it's rated well. So,
hopefully, it's not super haunted.
No, actually, I was at a hotel in Hazleton for one of my Gitsan Treaty Society Board of Director meetings, and that place did not jive with me at all.
Yeah, I actually talked about that when I did the solo episode.
Yeah,
I talked about that, and then we've also talked about when we were in Vegas.
Yes.
Yeah, and do you remember the time we were in Vancouver when I was writing the Vancouver book? We went over to take pictures, and we were in that hotel.
Yeah,
we felt something there too.
Yes.
So it's not all hotels.
No,
not even close. But some of them definitely have people who never quite leave. behind.
No, it's like Ukiah. I went to Ukiah, I think it was 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And then I took Ian to Ukiah in 2019.
Yeah,
and
thanks a lot.
That was scary.
Yeah, it was pretty.
That place is
pretty wild.
They actually, I don't think they have it anymore on Netflix, but it's sad. They had a series called Sasquatch, and that actually discussed why there's such a heavy feeling in the Ukiah area.
Yeah, it talks specifically about Ukiah.
Yeah, Ukiah is in Northern California.
Yeah.
And it's just off the Pacific Coast Highway. And there's just the feeling of dread generally. It doesn't feel very nice, but the Sasquatch movie talks, well, it's like a series. I think it was 6 episodes.
Yeah, something like
discusses basically why the atmosphere of Ukiah is
so dark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the energy is not as, I don't know, exciting or happy or busy as bustling as the rest of California.
It's definitely not happy.
But that is actually because I think Ukiah basically came about as a hippie pot growing community in the 60s,
Right.
50s, 60s.
Right. And then it got weird.
Yeah. And then there was a massive drug bust from the FDA.
Yep.
And after all that was done with, I understand the big gangs moved in and started actually going much more hardcore drugs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone who questioned it just disappeared.
Yeah.
So
things got
that's
ugly
why
around there.
Ukiah has a bit more of a
darker
feeling.
Yeah, for sure.
But that hotel didn't feel nice, and I certainly didn't feel good in my little trailer. I think I made mention before that I thought that night was it for me.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
that Mercedes pulls up behind me.
Very menacing.
The Sprinter van, I think it was, and we ended up becoming friends. But I was like, oh, it really came up close to my trailer as I just parked. I'm like, oh, is this it? But I went back to sleep and woke up the next day. But yeah, the place in Hazleton, that's early May, I think it was I was there. Or no, mid-May. It was mid-May for the next meeting. Anyways, I recall waking up several times to water dripping beside the bed, and it was a carpeted floor.
Mm-hmm.
And Ian had the hypothesis that it could have been one of the women that was possibly disappearing and never found from the Highway of Tears.
Yeah, at least it was a woman. I'm sure of that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't feel comfortable, but I woke up to the distinct sound of water dripping beside my bed. I thought maybe a faucet I could have left on, but it was way too loud.
Yeah, I'm right beside the bed.
And it was beside the bed.
And you don't wake up for anything.
No. And it's strange. When I turned on the light, it stopped. And that happened a few times. I think the second time it was 2:45 in the morning. And this time I woke up with intent and just sat there listening.
Yeah.
And I definitely heard it. And then the minute I turned on the light, stopped.
Crazy.
But it was beside the bed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, didn't sleep too well that night.
So we have some other stories of haunted hotels.
Yeah.
Before we jump into the stories, I just want to say a big hello to Brittany, who is a local PGer.
Yeah, hello.
Came on the Ghost Walks and very kindly said, I listen to your podcast. So now we know we have at least 2 fans in PG. Probably that's our full fan base in Prince George. So we'll have we should have a PG meet and greet, and it'll be me and Brittany and you and that other nice lady who we met at the ice cream store, and that'll be it.
Oh yeah, hi.
We can all just share a table at Tim Hortons or something equally Canadian. So yeah, we're going to start off with these lovely hotel stories right when we get back, and I hope you're going to enjoy them. I enjoyed reading them and discovering them. The first one is about one hotel. I think the first few stories are about one particular hotel, and then we get into some of the others. And one of them I'm in love with. You'll know it. 1960s Cafe. You'll know it. All right, we'll be right back. And we're back.
Yes, welcome back.
Now, interestingly enough, our very first story is from the city of Long Beach in California.
Yeah.
And we've stayed in some pretty shady places in Long Beach.
It was so fun. We were, that was end of 2019 because we were going to go on the cruise.
For your
through
birthday.
2020, yeah.
Yeah, for your birthday and New Year's.
So we were in Long Beach because that's where the cruise departs from. It was the same cruise as the Love Boat. And that place was pretty bad.
Pretty sketchy.
It's
but we knew
so
it was
funny.
really bad.
We had an Uber driver that dropped us off and said, "Oh, geez, good luck."
Yeah, he literally said good luck. And I was like, excuse me? And he goes, I'm pretty sure there was a murder here last month.
Yeah.
And then he drove away. So
Yeah.
that was
Okay,
awesome.
ciao.
And then before that, we stayed in
always
Long
fun.
Beach at a really sketchy place. Do you remember we got there super late and those weird people scurried out from underneath the hotel
yeah.
on their bikes?
Oh,
and
yeah,
we
the
were
bikes,
like,
yeah.
where are we? We're basically
I like that.
1930s shanty town, essentially.
Yeah.
It was bad.
The bed was strange. The weird thing around the bed, like a valance.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
And he made me pay $25 deposit for the cardboard room key. Do you remember that? He goes, you got to pay $25. It's 2 a.m. because our flight was late and everything else. And he goes, you got to pay $25 for the room key. And I went, in cash? Because we're from Canada.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of American cash. He's like, yep. I'm like, okay. He was obviously very confused as to why we were staying in that hotel.
I think so.
Because I don't think they had a lot of other people staying there for any other
It was
reason.
probably more a living hotel.
Or by the hour. I think that was how that
I didn't
hotel.
catch that.
Yeah, I think
Nice.
I know you're so sweet and innocent, but I think that's how that one goes.
That makes sense.
So we've got stories from what is now the Comfort Inn and Suites in the city of Long Beach. Before that, it was something else. So we're just going to jump in. The stories are hidden histories and sometimes unregistered guests occupy these rooms, and they've got entries that are true reports from the employees and also complaints from the guests. So that's actually kind of cool that we've got these. So Jason's going to kick us off. And the first story is called The Scratching Room.
Room 116.
Room 116. Go for it.
So I apologize. My brain is a little foggy. So if I mumble or stumble, then it's probably post-COVID.
Do the best you can.
So when we first moved to the International Inn in 1999, I was 10 years old, and my family stayed in room 118. I was going to turn 11 in the next couple of months, and I was excited to see how it would be having my birthday at my mom's workplace. It was going to be a pool party with pizza crowded with friends and family. When the day came, the party didn't happen. All my friends lived far away in the old neighborhood, and Mom and Dad both had to work that day. Instead, me and my siblings stormed the swimming pool, and since Star Wars Episode 1 just released, we had our Jedi versus Matrix fights to fill the time. I hardly knew the tenants living there at the inn, but it didn't stop me from being a loud and annoying little kid. I only knew Jamal and his little sister back then. His family members were most welcoming and helped me get accustomed to the inn life. Even though I didn't find it ideal to start middle school out of the inn, it was a fresh idea that I could only learn to love in time. In our building, we were the second to last in the line of even-numbered rooms downstairs. The tailoring room was 116. My first sight of what was there was unforgettable.
Unforgettable.
Sanchez, the maintenance worker at the time, left it open one Sunday during a commercial break from my weekend morning cartoons. I passed the open sliding door on my way to retrieve a box for my dad from the family van. The room was very dark and seemed deeper than ours and a lot taller, impossible as all the rooms measured the same dimensions. Inside 116, 60s furniture stacked high, claiming half the room. I remember the broken old lamps growing up another corner to the left. The carpet was deteriorating below, and the only light that lit the entire room was inside the bathroom. The toilet still worked, which was the maintenance personnel's restroom, but the sink was no longer in service. The tub was also full of dressers and lamps and crowded the no-door bathroom. The only other objects inside were lost belongings of former guests of one of Sanchez's workbenches. room had a faint mildew and dust odor. I wasn't aware that I walked into the room until Sanchez grabbed my shirt from behind me, and as I stood in front of the mirror in the bathroom, I figured he wanted me out of there speaking in Spanish. So I just ran out and back to the room, only to be yelled at for not doing what my dad asked me to. I always felt drawn to that room 116 since that day. There was something strange about it.
Isn't that always the way it goes when you know you shouldn't go somewhere, you want to go there?
Yeah, it's true. As the years passed, many things changed. The International made lots of renovations and repaired some of our storage rooms. Some rooms, like 116, remained untouched and continued to pile items behind the sliding door curtains. Every Wednesday night, I watered the plants in the courtyard and parking lot was as it was our home chores as in kids. I would have loved to settle with dishes or something, but we had to clean the property. I always felt that there was something waiting at the end of the even room line, so as any other boy would, I would stay at 120 and shoot over to 116 and not stepping any closer. In those years, we had cats that roamed the property. We kids always fed the cats our leftovers. Those cats always crowded in front of room 116 like they lived there. I enjoyed spraying them away on Wednesdays.
Interesting. Why the cats were drawn to that room, eh?
That is interesting. Today, as the Comfort Inn and Suites of Long Beach Room 116 services as a jacuzzi room, the 5 jacuzzi rooms are one of the newer amenities installed since the Comfort Inn name was acquired. In the recent years, Room 116 has been harboring problems from many of our guests. Reports of a scary scratching upon the door and walls have been jotted down in our logbook of complaints. Even the event would annoy the guests from receiving any sleep in the night. A few of our employees also perceived the scratching noises during their night in 116. My wife has also made out the scratching noise taunting her in the late hour. As I spoke to her on the phone, the scratching continued at the door, although I saw no one in the view of the camera monitor. The noise didn't stop until I reached the room. When I opened the door, I found my wife wide-eyed and frustrated that I wasn't going to hear for myself. My mom, the manager, never addresses the scratching situation. She finds everyone to be paranoid and that maybe it was just water flowing through the pipes in the walls.
Nope.
I can tell you that my mom is not a skeptic on the matter of ghosts. Growing up in Samoa, she and her family have had many encounters with evil spirits.
Interesting.
I don't have any stories that can explain the occurrences with the guests in the jacuzzi room. I do not know if there are any deaths within room 116. I only know that it was a creepy old storage room that nobody liked to go into and that the cats liked hanging out the front of it. And now that we have some spirit clawing at the door and walls when you are alone in the dark, the noise is never heard in that room when you are with someone else, it seems. I never hear about the problems from couples. Only single travelers ever call the front desk agents to vent about the alarming noises.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, my guess would be because when a corporate entity takes over a property, they don't know any of the history.
That's very true.
So my guess would be 116 was empty for a very good reason.
Yeah, probably.
And then when the corporate entity took over, it was like, whatever, it's a room. Let's, fix it up. Let's make money out of it. So they wouldn't have known why.
That's like that movie John Cusack. What was it? 418 or something?
Oh my gosh.
1408.
You said to me about that movie and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about because I'd never even heard of it. And you said, no, we have to watch it. And I'm like, all right. I wasn't expecting much.
1408.
Holy cow. That movie is insane.
I love it when, is it the hotel manager? What's his name? Who's the actor?
Oh, Lawrence Fishburne?
No.
I'm blanking.
No. It's guy who was the Jedi who did the movie.
Samuel L. Jackson?
Yeah, Samuel L. Jackson. I think he sits down with a bottle of the fanciest cognac and says, "It is an evil bleep room." And then he's like, well, there's been so many deaths. And he's like, yeah, but they never talked about all the natural ones. Right. Mm-hmm. But that's such a good movie. So if you like scary movies and
definitely
haunted rooms, 1408.
Definitely. Absolutely.
And then the phone would ring and she's like, would you like our express checkout? And this noose drops from the ceiling.
Well, that is one way to check out.
Yeah, that is one way of checking out.
All right, next story. Room 126. Mornings have always possessed a bright light of life at the Comfort Inn and Suites. Travelers from different parts of the world seem to enjoy each other's company in our dining room. Guests and their families would trudge out of bed early from their moments of rest for only one reason: free breakfast. We serve a decent continental hot breakfast in the morning. It has proven to be my favorite renovation here at the inn. Plenty of guests enjoy the variety on the menu, and more are surprised at the unexpected amount of people that they get to share food with. But to the front desk agents like me, the happy breakfast room changes its mood in the midnight hours. It seems that we employees have all had unexplained experiences that left us hesitant to enter the dining room. Accounts of moving furniture, dropping of table items, rattling of kitchen equipment, knocking and hissing have all been recorded. During my first fall season of work here, I had sighted a head and a half torso apparition.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was a white figure walking inside the cafeteria past the glass sliding doors. I believed it to be the image of an old woman. It could possibly have been a reflection of a pedestrian walking outside the lobby walkway, but when I double-checked the security camera capturing the face of the lobby, to my confusion, the cameras didn't catch anyone or anything out there.
Wow.
I excused the illusion as a glare from headlights of a passing car upon the surface of the glass doors. I can usually tell when someone is approaching the front door by viewing the reflection off of the cafeteria's glass panels. So I went on to my usual graveyard routine and finished my reports before lunchtime. At around 3 a.m, I slid one cafeteria door wide open so that I could access the vending machine and purchase some Doritos and a Snickers bar. A very healthy early breakfast.
Yeah.
I left that very door open through the whole time following. Diesel, who is my older brother, was the security guard on duty during that time, and it was a slow November for us. Because of the night's pace, I let him rest on the couch in the lobby. As a younger brother would do, I tried to ignore him and his extreme snoring the rest of the night. I was watching music videos on my laptop behind the counter when another light was seen in the cafeteria. The woman stood further into the room this time, but stared at me before drifting out of view through the doorway. The 7 seconds of vision felt like the lifetime of description. She was such a frightening image. Her eyes were empty black holes. Her face looked fair, but her eyes would not leave my focus. The lady was a faint holographic mist material from what I could guess in the shadow. I stood up shaken from her image, and I didn't move for a minute or so. My music faded into the background, and all I could hear was my heartbeat. I then slowly came around the corner to wake Diesel up from his Snorlax-esque slumber when he said in his sleep, "Tell the old lady to leave."
Wow.
My brother's exact mumbled words. I then slapped my brother's face in reaction to his horrifying statement. Never could I imagine this event the way it had played out. He got up angry, and before he could wail out at me, I demanded an explanation of what old lady he was referring to. I stood in complete denial at what had just happened between my brother and I. I then told him what I'd seen. He first sat up irritated, but the more I spoke, he finally woke in fear as he was able to gather the pieces of the lady he was dreaming about. He dreamed of the old woman from 126 that died in her bed in 2005.
Oh my.
Deborah, who was in room 126, lived there with her son, who currently lives out on the streets. Patrick had spent all his mother's remaining savings on drugs and other expenses after her passing.
Jeez.
Diesel said that Deborah was pacing towards him in his nightmare, and he couldn't get away from her. He was in a dark, endless corridor, and the dead figure stood before him. The more he would run from her, the woman would chase nearer to him. He would even be at full sprint, and yet stepping slowly, she would be right on his tail.
Oh my gosh.
Before she could grab him, I had awakened him from his sleep. He explained to me what she looked like, and it matched the description of the breakfast room entity. He also said a bit about his friends at a beach and a cat, but I don't believe they had any significance to the spirits. We still hear things in there on a nightly basis.
Wow.
And only one other agent has seen the woman at the same spot I had. For my benefit, I do not tell any new agents of the old lady stories, for it makes scheduling very difficult.
No kidding.
Thankfully, I haven't worked a night shift in 7 months. The old rooms, 126 and 128, were taken down and converted to a giant room. Today, that is now the breakfast room on the property.
Oh, yeah,
So
there
that's
you
her
go.
old room. The hotel I once lived in has undergone many renovations. And as a kid, the woman from 126 wouldn't like us running past her door and would complain about the noise of the neighboring children to the front desk. I remember that when she couldn't get any assistance to silence us, she would stand under her heavy curtains in front of her sliding glass door and give us a very mean stare. So we kids just ran to the other side of the pool so we couldn't see her. Today, we still get an anonymous interior phone call with a strange 5-digit number. The caller never says anything back besides a negative static washing sound that constantly shrieks through the receiver. Personal note. As a younger brother, I could not help but find the expression on my older brother's face far more than funny. Withdrawing my hand from his left cheek, perhaps the best part of that story was the reaction of victory following my fearful panic. Wow. That is quite the hotel.
Yeah.
And that was very cool that his brother, well, not cool for him, but that his brother was dreaming
No kidding.
of the same lady this guy was literally seeing at the same time.
That's bizarre.
That's crazy.
She's a little scary.
And powerful. And apparently not done with the room,
Yeah.
which got taken away from her.
Yeah, now it's the breakfast hall.
I'm going to keep that in mind. But it sounds like during the day when it's full, there's nobody there. It's not creepy at all. It's only when no one's in there.
That's really bizarre.
All right. Ready for our next story?
Yeah.
We're off to Twin Falls, Idaho.
Oh, yeah, Twin Falls.
Go for it.
I love Idaho.
It's so pretty.
Where were we there? Where they filmed Dante's Peak. That place felt...
We did a whole episode on that. Yeah.
That place was amazing.
Yeah, it was. It was very cool.
We were watching the news one night, and they were showing the Twin Falls all lit up with changing lights in Twin Falls, Idaho, and we decided to go. It was almost 2 hours away, so my wife books a room at a dog-friendly motel and wait for our day to go. Me, wifey, and my year-old pup hit the road, and it was a great drive all the way there. We're jacked to be going to the falls. We roll into Twin Falls, locate our motel, get to our room, and unload our stuff. This room is really nice, and all looks brand new. We go outside and walk around the building. Other dogs are also going in and out, and we hear yelling. Mexican restaurant next door is really hopping, and people are taking presents into the front door area there. Wife says she wants a margarita, and she heads to the
I love
restaurant's
guys
front
who just
door.
refer to their the love of their lives as wife.
Yeah. She heads to the front restaurant door. Myself and Pop head to the out front of the building to grass and main drag and traffic zipping by. We just kill time now to almost dark and ask directions to the falls at the front desk, which are nearby. We get to the falls, and it's so busy we had to pull over and are told when we can drive down to the falls, and it is tight and winding road down to the parking area. Seems a credit union is lighting up the falls when it is very cool where we were standing. We are at the very top of area falls, and water crashing way below us, and well worth the drive to finally see the falls. And when we feel we have wandered around enough, and we head back to our motel room. That is one long run.
That's a very long run on sentence. Yes.
Sorry. We're laying in bed now, puppy in the middle just below the pillows, and we are playing with our little guy, and wifey says she has to go to the front desk and discuss our bill. We ordered 2 rooms somehow. Anyway, she leaves the room, and I'm on the left side of the bed and really close to the edge, and puppy is in the middle of the bed, and I am messing with him, giggling, and just before his playful grunts and bites, when all of a sudden the mattress is being lifted right behind me, maybe 4 times, and it is like the waves hitting your boat sideways, and really noticeable.
Whoa, that would be scary.
That's a lot of ands.
I know, bless. Not everyone can write.
No, I'm
kind.
on my side with my elbow on the bed and my hand holding up my head, and I quickly look behind me and nothing there. I would say it is around 10 p.m. and the lights are on. When my wife returns, I tell her something was rocking me and the mattress, and again now I am right around 205 pounds, and this mattress is a very tall one, not easily grabbed, let alone lift with me right next to the edge. Well, we get ready for bed, thankfully. Well, we get ready for bed, thankful for a great day in this small town, and we hit the hay. Around 3:30 a.m., wife wakes me up by moving around and says something is moving the bed over here. And she sounds a little miffed, and we just fell back to sleep. When I went for coffee in the morning, I told the front desk what had happened last night, and he said that's never happened here as far as I know. When I go for breakfast, there is a table full of uniformed motel workers, at least 6 ladies, and I asked them if they had any issues in room 113, and a couple of them shook their heads no. I lifted the mattress up, and it was small spring and metal band system, and I took pictures of it, always debunking. There's a great bed system. The lower sides are painted steel, a very tall bed, and I could see the floor past the metal webbing. It was a Sealy mattress that looked new. Before writing this yesterday, I called the motel with the wife's help and asked the lady who answered if the mattress shaker had bothered anyone else, and she said, I have worked here quite a while and never heard of this happening before. I hung up and thought, well, I told your front desk and table full of workers, so somebody has heard of this before.
That's pretty typical.
Well, I wondered if the bed spring had just something to do with it being a metal fabricator most of my life. I really doubt it just from our weights.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. The hotel would just be like, nope, never heard of that before.
Yeah.
Because they don't want reputation.
That is... Yeah, no kidding.
So it's pretty common that they would just...
Twin Falls, Idaho. I wonder what motel that would be.
I don't know.
Interesting.
Have to go check it out. All right. Here's the story I'm excited for. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Gonna be all right?
Oh, yeah.
All right. It was a few years now, back in 1999, and I was on a rest break holiday in New York. I was just 26 years old and just divorced from my first wife. And because the settlement had just been finalized, I decided to take a break for a week. I was tired and stressed at work. Thankfully, my boss understood at the time and recommended I go to New York. It was baseball season, and he and I are both Yankees fans. I thought I'd catch a game while I was there. Turns out the Yankees were in Cleveland that week. Sadly, it wasn't until 2001 that I got to see them play live. But again, while on holiday, it didn't really matter, as it turned out I had enough excitement on this holiday to last a lifetime. And it came in a very odd way, at least to me, as I hadn't previously experienced anything like this before. I'd been in New York 4 days of the 8, and I found myself back in the East Village around 5 p.m. in the evening, and I was feeling really hungry. I'd had a busy day visiting the Museum of Natural History, which I think is really fantastic, and was deciding between going to go and eat, and then go to my room to rest for a couple of hours and see what happens from there, or get something to eat, go and shower and change, and keep finding things to do. After much thinking, I'd see how it went after having something to eat, as my stomach was rumbling. After a change of clothes in my room, I went out to look for a nice little place to eat, somewhere quiet and relaxed. I walked from the hotel, turned into the walkway, I think on my right, and started hunting down a cafe. A lot of places I tried were overrun and had no empty tables till much later in the evening. So I kept looking. I can't remember the name of the street or how I got there from my room. All I know was that it was in the East Village. And I remember only by sight and landmarks how to get there from my room. This was prior to 9/11, and there were a lot of people out enjoying the nice warm night. I don't know what made me stop and look at this one place, but when I saw it, I first thought, how cool, a 60s style coffee house-like cafe. I was a little surprised that this place, which looked so warm and welcoming, was not overrun by customers. There were only about 4 or 5 other people sitting at nearby tables, eating, drinking sodas, and laughing happily, or in what looked like serious discussion. I walked to the door to look in further and barely got there when a lady with almost waist-length strawberry blonde hair and a long skirt and peasant-style 60s skirt came over and asked me if I would like a table. The atmosphere felt so welcoming that I just couldn't say no. So I was taken into this table along the side wall that had seatings for 2 and was asked to take a seat. She took my drink order, left, and quickly returned with my Coca-Cola and a menu. First thing I noticed, the Coke was in an old-fashioned glass bottle with the brand name in the glass. I hadn't seen one like this since I was a kid in the mid-'70s, and that's when they dumped all the empty ones. I thought, how cool is this? Maybe Coke has made a special limited edition of the bottles again or something. I drank some, and it tasted cold and good, just what I needed after running around all day. I looked over the menu I'd been given. The food on offer looked really good, and the prices were unbelievably cheap. When the waitress came back, I ordered the chicken burger with fries, and while waiting, looked around at the others in the cafe. Two guys with their girlfriends who looked like rock musicians with long hair. They smiled at me as I'd sat down. A man by himself in a tie-dyed shirt and a bandana, and another couple who were older, like in their 50s, which looked a little out of place, as I guess I did, and a man about my age with long hair playing a guitar in between bites of his salad plate. The music he was playing clearly sounded like 60s hippie music. I was actually starting to enjoy it by the time my burger and fries came. The meal tasted fantastic, loads of flavor and lots of it for the price. After eating the main meal, I got another Coke and ordered an equally cheap but extremely tasty piece of chocolate cake for dessert. It was brilliant. Meanwhile, I looked around me, fascinated at the amazing detail of this so authentic-looking 60s-style cafe. The tables had candles in glass holders that flickered a warm glow. There were lights in the room, but they were obviously dimmed to give the place a relaxed feel. There was a mural on the wall with people dancing, rainbows, musicians, animals, and plants that looked very high quality, like a famous artist had done it or something.
Wow.
The place looked absolutely brilliant, and the people there looked and seemed really friendly. I wondered how long this place had been here, if it had actually been around since the 60s, as a lot of things like the shops and galleries had been open around 30 plus years. When the chocolate cake arrived, the waitress smiled at me again as she'd done other times in the night, and she said to me while looking at my new Ray-Ban sunglasses in aviator style, "Groovy glasses, man." I tried hard not to laugh, realizing that if this place was set up as a 60s cafe, she must be playing out the character of the times, and I thanked her. I finished my meal and asked for and paid the check, the whole $3.25.
Wow.
$3.25. I was so shocked at how cheap this hugely portioned meal was, I left a $5 tip. I'm sure the lady probably thought I was crazy, but it was well worth every dime. After I said my goodbye to her, I asked if I could make a dinner placement for tomorrow night. She, of course, said yes, and in a book near the counter where I paid my bill, she wrote it down, and I left for the night. On the short walk home, I found myself thinking about this unusual cafe, thinking how lucky I was to find a non-overcrowded cafe with good, cheap food, friendly staff, and nice surroundings. It had just felt so warm, friendly, and welcoming. Nothing really seemed odd, a little too fitting with the 60s maybe, but that was because it was themed, or so I thought. For the first time in a long time, I slept a strange sleep, broken by strange dreams I can't recall, much other than it seemed I was in that cafe. Only now it was old, dilapidated, and unloved.
My.
I thought little of it as I put it down to the fact that I was just in a new place and was getting used to the weird hotel and the strange shadows the place had. The next day, I spent my time in the city's various cultural diverse galleries and market stalls, Little Italy, Chinatown, some other places where visitors hang out, and was again now tired and hungry and looking forward to a nice dinner at the cafe that night. I went to my room to change and freshen up and left to make my reservation. And that's when I got the biggest shock of my life. I reached the cafe early, by 10 minutes, but I still wouldn't be ever able to eat there. Where I was sure I left a great cafe the night before was a dark, empty, boarded-up storefront with smoke damage around its frame. All the windows and doors were very roughly boarded over, and it looked like it had been that way for years and years. Thinking I must have had the wrong place, I walked up and down, back and forth across 2 blocks, nearly getting my poorly functioning mental compass really confused. For over 2 hours I looked. Not one place I saw was even close. And after fruitlessly hunting for 2 hours, I gave up my search and vowed to look in it in the good light of the day, and found a McDonald's to eat in instead.
That's funny.
A standby McDonald's. Next day, let's just say things got plain strange. Again, I retraced my steps, looking up and down, back and forth over the same area I had the night before, and I could still only find that badly covered over, empty, dark, cold, boarded-up shop with some smoke damage. Like a fire had blown out the windows at some time. I was standing looking at the empty store when a lady in her 60s asked me if I'd seen the place too. I told her what had happened the night before, and she told me she herself had experienced the cafe after it had long closed, as I had the night before. And she went on with my probing to tell me that, yes, there had been a 60s coffee shop there in real life, and it had been very popular and served great food cheap. The problem was the cafe hadn't been open in that place since the big kitchen fire during closing hours in 1974.
Holy smokes.
No one was hurt or killed, and no one could explain why it happened. The owners had no funds to fix it, sold the store, and left the area.
That's awful.
The next people redid over the shop, and each time someone moved in, they didn't last very long. Eventually, after many years of bad luck with shops there in the building, the owner decided to sell it. But another fire made it impossible, and the building was declared unsafe and had been boarded up empty for the past 15 years at the time that I saw the Long Ago Cafe there that night.
Wow.
Was it a time slip I got lost in for a couple of hours?
Could be.
Most people I've spoken to seem to think it was. And I apparently wasn't the only one besides the old lady who'd been caught up in it. There are as many as 7 others who've had dealings with the long shut place. Not that anyone other than that one old lady would tell me anything. As much as I tried to find out, most people tried to dismiss my question or laugh at me, saying I was seeing things. One old guy asked me if I was high. I'd never taken drugs in my life. And another lady in her 80s, I'm guessing, demanded curtly that I stop asking about that damned filthy hippie drug user cafe that keeps on showing up. Clearly, she'd seen it too, but dead set refused to talk to me about it. And the last guy I talked to gave me a filthy look and muttered something about effing tourists.
Wow.
I thought I'd leave the street and go do more tourist things before I got anyone more upset and get arrested or something. I tried looking the place up on the internet, but because I didn't even know the name of the place, it didn't help much, and I never did find anything out. Wow.
A haunted cafe that serves good food.
I have heard of this.
Isn't that interesting?
There's another story where, and maybe this is a trope, and but the specific story I heard was the guy was traveling from one place to another, got caught in a big blizzard.
Yeah.
And he sees lights at the end of a driveway, and he stumbles up into up towards the house, and they let him in, and they feed him soup, and he sleeps in a bed. He goes to bed that night. The soup's delicious. The bread's delicious.
Wow.
The 2 kids they start playing maritime music together. And then in the morning, he wakes up and he's in an empty house. Same house. The house is empty and obviously has been for a long time.
Wow.
So he isn't even sure, was I imagining? But he knows he had the soup. He knows he had the bread.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a bit like a time slip. And he said if he hadn't seen the lights, he wouldn't even known the house was there, and he probably would have frozen to death.
It's like Star Trek.
Oh, stop it!
What?
It's
It's like Voyager when set parts of the ship start separating in time.
Yeah, it's exactly like that.
Yes. Well, I mean, you never know.
But it's pretty interesting, the time slip stuff.
Yes. That is fascinating.
So our next story Jason's going to read is the Niagara-on-the-Lake. And I will tell you that we went to Niagara-on-the-Lake. I went there with my first wife and only wife, ex-wife. We went there and spent a weekend, and we were in a hotel room.
I only have one question. Was she wifey?
No.
Wife.
She,
The wife.
most definitely not. But Niagara-on-the-Lake is really gorgeous, and it's really, really old.
Oh, yes.
And we stayed in a very much a haunted hotel, and it was really cool. It's
hi, Margaret.
a beautiful, I'm sure she's listening. It was a beautiful, beautiful place. And so this story is about Niagara-on-the-Lake. So Jason's going to read it for us.
In 2004, my wife and I were at the now discontinued 1 Minute Film Festival in Toronto, where we had a couple of video entries up for public adoration. While our videos garnered no awards, I was fortunate enough to win a draw and receive 2 tickets to the Shaw Festival Theatre in Niagara-on-the-Lake, Ontario.
Very cool.
My wife and I booked for this the following summer to see the play You Can Never Tell. As the time drew near, I had to select accommodations not included in the prize. Niagara-on-the-Lake has quite a few Victorian-era hotels that are quite extravagant and I am told are worth the money. Influenced by my Dutch heritage, however, I was looking for something a little less expensive. I stumbled upon the website for the Old Angel Inn. Their rooms were much cheaper and they had a room available for the night that I needed. There are only 5 available guest rooms in the Old Angel Inn with an E.
Yes.
They are all on the second floor above the restaurant and bar. I didn't sample the bar, but the food is quite good. You are given a key to your room and one of the door downstairs because once the restaurant is closed for the night, you are on your own. The staff does not remain. We stayed in the Colonel Suite in the Irish fertility bed. I think the name might have something to do with the bed's incredibly small size. We went to bed around midnight.
That's funny.
At around 2 a.m., I was awoken by a bang downstairs. I assumed that it was a late guest trying to check in. That is impossible at the inn because if you are late, you are locked out and there's no staff to accommodate you. The first bang was followed by another bang and then more of them. It became louder and louder in rapid succession. There was then a very loud crash at the sound and the splintering of wood. This was followed by another series of bangs, but they started to fade in volume. Boom, 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 until the sound faded away completely. I was sure that something big had happened downstairs. Maybe people had broken in and they were wrecking the place. I was not sure. I did have it in the corner of my mind that this may have been a ghostly occurrence. In either case, I was not going to investigate.
Yeah, me either, buddy. I'm totally with you.
My wife still seemed to be asleep, so I didn't disturb her. In my case, I could not go back to sleep. My mind was full of questions, and besides that, the bed was so small that I was hanging on for the fear of falling out anyways. Must have been a double.
Yeah.
20 minutes later, there was a bang again. The exact same sequence played out. The bangs, the splintering of the wood, and the trailing off of sounds were all repeated the same way they had happened the first time.
Wow.
My wife now awake. Did you hear that? I said yes. And then asked if she heard the first cacophony. She had heard it.
Interesting.
I told her that maybe somebody was locked out, but she wasn't buying that. We both then admitted that we thought it was due to some ghostly agency. I don't know when we fell asleep, but it was not a long time before the morning came. I was still trying to rationalize things, so to test my person locked out theory, I went downstairs and let myself out. I pretended to be locked out and pounded on the door and shook the door in its frame. I then let myself in and shoved the door closed as hard as I could. I then stomped up the wooden stairs and then entered my room, where my wife was looking at me quizzically. She said, "Was all that noise you?" I admitted that it was and asked her that if it sounded like the sounds from the night before. She said, "Absolutely not."
Wow.
The Old Angel Inn restaurant does not open for breakfast, so we walked to another establishment. When we returned, a woman was in the inn restaurant cleaning it. I asked her if she found anything broken, to which she said no and asked me why. I told her about the noises and the splintering wood, and she said nothing was broken and that she had only been working there a few months and heard enough tales about weird goings-on. She did not want to hear any more.
I love it.
Later in the day, I had learned from the sad tale of Captain Swayze. He was killed in the cellar by invading Americans during the War of 1812.
Friggin' Americans.
Sorry. It is said that he still appears in ghostly form, usually in the washrooms, which are in the cellar. The American soldiers broke into many places that day and routed the inhabitants of the homes and businesses before burning most of the buildings to the ground. A terrible snowstorm arose, and scores of the inhabitants of Niagara-On-The-Lake frozen to death that night.
Wow.
I wonder if the sounds that my wife and I had heard were a repeat of the soldiers breaking down the door all those years ago. For anyone interested, Niagara-on-the-Lake is a great little tourist town located where the Niagara River empties into Lake Ontario. I highly recommend you visit if you are nearby.
That's crazy.
Yes.
It is a beautiful town. Like I would highly endorse that you do this because it is pretty awesome.
That sounds pretty exciting.
That sounds intense.
Old Angel Inn. I want to stay there now.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I actually went to the bar. It was good.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't stay there, but it was
Oh my gosh.
nice place. So I'm up for it. Let's do it.
That's interesting. Bang, bang, bang.
Yeah, let's do it. We could do a whole episode on Niagara-on-the-Lake.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Done. You were here, folks. You heard it. We're doing it. I don't know when. All right, we've got our last story now for this episode. And here we go. This tale was relayed to me by my father. He swears it's entirely true and has talked about it much over the years. My grandfather's backed up elements of the story known to him. As a young man in 1982, before he met my mother, my father read law at Liverpool University in England.
Ooh.
While he was there, he began a somewhat fiery and ultimately doomed relationship with a fellow student who hailed from London. At the end of Christmas term, in a last-ditch attempt to salvage their rapidly deteriorating relationship, they decided that rather than going their separate ways immediately, the young lady would instead drive them back to London so they could spend a few days with her parents before he headed back to his own family home in Norfolk in time for Christmas Day. To cut a long story short, they didn't even get as far as London before it became clear that nothing was going to fix the unfixable.
Oh, no.
And that with the distractions of the university behind them, they had even less in common than they'd hoped. The relationship officially ended at the Watford Gap service station on the M1 motorway in North Hampshire, where by mutual consent, my father alighted from his now ex-girlfriend's Austin Allegro, and she drove off without so much as a glance in the rearview mirror. By now, it was tea time.
How did the Austin Allegro drive away? That's all I want to know.
By now it was tea time, which is British for supper time, and my father was at least 100 miles from home. He phoned his father, explained the situation, and his father said yes, he could come and get him, but not until the following day because he'd been drinking wine all afternoon with friends at the golf club, and his mother didn't drive. That's so funny. I'd come and get you, but I'm drunk.
Yeah.
As you can imagine, my father was not now in the best of moods, having been dumped by his girlfriend and temporarily abandoned by his father. Rather than spending the night at the service station, my father, being a man of some means, even as a student, determined that he would see if there were more amiable lodgings elsewhere. So he set off across some fields behind the service station and headed for the lights of the nearest village, which turned out to be a little settlement called Watford. Here he came across an old Georgian-era inn called the Henley Arms, where he was able to order some dinner, a couple of beers, and a bed for the night. Retiring to his room, my father soon dropped off to sleep. In the middle of the night, however, he was awoken by the sound of giggling coming from somewhere in his room. He immediately turned the light on, but no one was there. Puzzled, he went to check the time before going back to sleep, but found that his watch was no longer on his bedside table.
Oh, my.
It was a really expensive Omega that his father had given him for passing grade 12, and so he immediately panicked and began to search the room to find it.
Uh-oh.
It was nowhere to be found. The bedroom door was locked from inside with the key still in the lock, so it was clear no one could have snuck in and stolen the watch.
Wow.
My father now was so angry and confused that he struggled to get back to sleep. Eventually he did fall asleep, however, and when he woke up, he found his watch on the bedside table, exactly where he'd originally placed it.
That's good.
The watch had stopped at around 3 a.m.
Naturally.
Which again was strange, as he always wound it before bed. At breakfast, my father raised the curious incident with the landlord, who expressed no surprise whatsoever. The landlord told him matter-of-factly that it must have been Patches. According to the landlord, similar goings-on had occurred there for hundreds of years, prompting numerous investigations, including a famous one by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Naturally. The landlord said that Patches was most likely the spirit of a young woman, and while she was somewhat mischievous, she never did anyone harm. Some hours later, my father was reunited with his own father and returned home safely to Norfolk. Later that same Christmas holiday, at a carol service, he met my mother. My father has never returned to the inn.
Oh.
That's cool.
Patches, huh?
Patches.
Sounds like fun. Hundreds of years, eh?
That's England. You know, it's funny you say that, because you know what my mom said to me when I took her on the ghost walk?
What's that?
She goes, I'm really sorry we left England. You would have just been in your element.
That's very, yeah. It's well said, actually.
Because you've got thousands of years of
thank you, Hillary.
Of
That's
those people
probably
that
very true.
It's probably very true.
Whether they're true or not,
it
they're
doesn't.
still fun stories.
They're still amazing stories.
Yeah.
All right, my friends, we are going to be right back, and we will finish off the show right after this. All right, friends, we're back. I hope you enjoyed those scary, scary hotel stories.
Yeah.
Which one was your favorite? Which one did you like the best? Time Slip?
No, I think the last one with Patches and the funny Omega watch.
Yeah, that was actually pretty cool. It was really well written, too.
It was.
Yeah, it was really well
written. Or the long run-on sentence one. That one was exciting.
Yes, with the bed being lifted up. That was weird.
Yeah.
That's really weird. We are here because of a few select people. Those are our
Thank
patrons.
you very much for your help.
They keep us going. As long as we have patrons, we will just keep pumping out the show until
Yeah,
we're
thank
old and die one day at the mic.
And then we'll become ghosts.
And then we'll become ghosts and haunt you all.
I'm just kidding.
But we want to thank you guys for your support and
I did
help.
feel like I was going to die during COVID, though. It's improving, but
You're a lot better. And you got your energy back, and that's what matters, right?
I'm still tired.
I know.
I think more it's the annoyance of the brain fog.
Well, hopefully that clears by the weekend.
I have an exam. I'm so nervous.
I know. You'll do fine. You always do.
All right.
We want to thank our wonderful patrons. You can become a patron. We would be so excited to have
Patrons are fun.
you. You get merch. And more importantly, you get access to, we put this podcast out every 2 weeks. And on those weeks, there is no show. We put out ghost stories we have heard.
We've heard, yes.
And we just cooked up 8 more episodes, which kick off starting next week on our last trip.
That was fun.
So we'd love for you to join us for those as well. So just become a patron. That's all you got to do. And we'd love to have you do it. Specifically today, we are thanking Michelle,
Taylor,
Dawn,
Robin,
Maria,
Gina,
Sharon,
Sherry,
Marion,
Kathleen,
Alexa,
Mary Frances,
Christopher,
David,
Ashley,
Jeremiah,
BB Nix,
Melinda,
Jordan,
Tammy,
Taya,
Evan,
Arwin,
Steve,
Kyle and Charlotte,
Catherine,
and Mari. Thank
you.
you guys so much. We're so grateful.
We have all sorts of different levels too.
We do, and we would love to hear from you as well. If you've got some ghost stories you'd like to share, which we could include in an upcoming episode, that would be amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, so please do that. Otherwise,
hopefully I'll sound better.
You will sound better. You'll sound a little more alive. And I'm sure everyone has missed you imitating the Kool-Aid Man.
Oh, yeah. That's all I have the energy for.
So thanks, everyone. And thanks for Jason being here, even though I made him do the mic, even though he's super tired.
Thank you. I'm probably going to go have a nap.
Exactly. And
then study, and then nap, and then study.
And then nap again.
So I nap.
So thanks, everyone, for being here. Thanks for listening. And please, if you want to help us out, review us on Apple. That'd be great. Tell your friends, get the word out. Anything you can do to help us grow our little weird community would be amazing. So thank you from us at Ghosts and Bears, where we have
the actual stories
with the actual ghosts
from the actual bears.
All right. Take care, everybody. We love you.
Stay safe.
Bye.
Bye.